Rachel Zegler is devastated. Sources close to the actress say she was blindsided, humiliated, and emotionally shaken after South Park unleashed one of its most brutal parodies yet, dragging her, Disney, and the entire Snow White reboot through the mud in front of millions. And now, as clips from the episode go viral, Zegler finds herself at the center of an internet firestorm she can't outrun. She was already under fire for her tone-deaf interviews, her dismissal of the original Snow White, and the movie's box office doom spiral. But this might be the final blow to both her public image and Disney's fairy tale facade. Because South Park didn't just mock the film, they turned Rachel Zegler into a symbol of everything that's gone wrong with Hollywood's obsession with reboots, forced messaging, and performative progressivism. And behind the scenes, Zegler is reportedly crumbling under the pressure. Before we dive into one of the most bizarre and chilling mysteries to ever hit Hollywood, make sure to subscribe if you love deep dives into unsolved cases, hidden truths, and shocking celebrity mysteries. Trust me, this one is going to leave you speechless. Let's break down how one parody became a full-blown cultural reckoning, and why Rachel Zegler may never fully recover from it. South Park's jab didn't hold back. The episode features a painfully accurate parody of a soulless reboot factory, thinly veiled as woke studios, where classic characters are rewritten by a diversity board more concerned with PR buzzwords than story integrity. Sound familiar? From mocking the removal of Snow White's prince, to jabs at reimagining the dwarfs as mythical creatures of indeterminate background, it's clear this was a direct hit on the 20s. The parody even includes a character who's clearly modeled after Zegler, rolling her eyes at romantic tropes and lecturing woodland animals about systemic oppression. It's savage, but it's also kind of deserved. Sources close to the production say Rachel Zegler was not amused. While she hasn't publicly commented on the South Park episode, insiders claim she was visibly upset and emotionally exhausted by the continuous wave of criticism, with the South Park roast acting as a breaking point. One insider even said Zegler felt humiliated and personally attacked. But here's the thing, when you repeatedly slam the source material of the character you're playing, fans are going to notice. And when one of the most culturally savage shows on television picks up on that, it becomes a meme war. You can't win. Zegler may have been mismanaged. She may have been following direction, but in the public eye, she became the symbol of everything fans hated about this remake. And satire like South Park's just turns that image into something permanent. While Zegler reels from the backlash, Disney has reportedly gone into panic mode. Executives are scrambling to control the narrative, but the truth is, there's not much left to salvage. Box office projections are plummeting, merchandising partners are pulling back, and internal morale, according to one anonymous staffer, is the worst it's been since Lightyear. The South Park episode only made things worse by giving the broader public permission to laugh, not just at the film but at Disney itself. And when Disney becomes a punchline, it's more than a PR issue. It's a brand identity crisis. What makes South Park's roast sting even more is how accurate it is. Because behind the jokes, there's a very real critique that Disney is prioritizing performative representation over storytelling. It's not that audiences hate diversity. They hate being pandered to, and Snow White felt like pandering from the first teaser. South Park, in their usual irreverent tone, made a point Hollywood still refuses to hear: "You don't make things more inclusive by hollowing them out." That line hit harder than any review. What we're seeing isn't just a backlash, it's a breakup. The audience that once gave Disney the benefit of the doubt has now stopped caring. People aren't debating Snow White anymore. They're mocking it. The conversation has shifted from outrage to apathy and an entertainment that's death. Meanwhile, South Park's roast is trending. Fan edits are going viral. TikToks are reenacting scenes from the parody. And Disney, they're silent. That silence speaks volumes. When South Park roasted Disney's Snow White, the internet laughed, but Rachel Zegler didn't. Behind the scenes, the fallout has taken an emotional toll few could have predicted. According to multiple insiders close to the production, Zegler has become overwhelmed, withdrawn, and perhaps most revealing, genuinely stunned by the magnitude of public backlash. What began as a bold reimagining of a fairy tale icon has spiraled into one of the most controversial film campaigns in Disney history. And now, that backlash has a face. Rachel Zegler has become the avatar for everything fans think went wrong with Snow White. A year ago, Zegler was on top of the world, handpicked by Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. championed by progressive Hollywood media, and cast as the lead in a live-action remake of Disney's most foundational princess. She was supposed to be untouchable, but it didn't take long for the narrative to fracture. The more Zegler spoke during the Snow White press run, the worse things got. Her comments ranged from passive dismissal of Prince Charming to critiques of the 1937 film's themes, comments that, to Disney's horror, became the story. And then came South Park. The animated satire didn't just mock the film, it directly lampooned Zegler. In the episode, the fictional Snow White character embodied the same smug, performative tone Zegler had been accused of, turning her into a full-blown meme. Viewers immediately connected the dot. Within hours, Zegler roast was trending. Rachel wasn't just a lead actress anymore. She was a punchline.
Privately, sources say Zegler was not emotionally prepared for the response. In group chats, Zoom meetings, and conversations with her team, she's reportedly expressed feeling betrayed by Disney for not protecting her, burned out by press responsibilities, and targeted by conservative media.
But here's the problem, it wasn't just conservative media. It was everyone. Liberal fans, Disney adults. Even political film critics began to pile on. Not necessarily because they hated Zegler, but because her tone felt out of sync with the movie she was promoting. The disconnect was jarring. This wasn't some dark satire or edgy reinterpretation, it was Snow White. And audiences expected charm, grace, and warmth, not viral clips of the lead actress mocking romance tropes and calling the original story weird. Zegler's breakdown, reportedly including emotional calls with her agency and PR team, has now triggered an even more urgent response from Disney. One insider told us, "They're in disaster mode, not just because of Rachel, but because the brand took a direct hit. They underestimated how much goodwill Snow White actually had." Within Disney, the blame is flying in every direction. Executives are reportedly furious that Zegler was allowed to speak so freely during press events. PR managers are pointing fingers at marketing, while producers are allegedly regretting some of the story pivots that turned the remake into a political Rorschach test rather than a fantasy adventure. Worse still, the merchandise teams. Retailers, already anxious after poor Snow White pre-sales, are quietly canceling licensing contracts. Dolls based on Zegler's likeness were pulled from upcoming holiday catalogs. Theme park tie-ins have been postponed indefinitely, and at least 2 international promotional campaigns have been shelved altogether. What was once supposed to be the launch of a new Disney era is now being described by insiders as a brand toxicity event. Zegler may be the face of it, but the roots go deeper. What makes this situation worse for Zegler and Disney is that South Park didn't just joke, they crystallized a cultural feeling. In just 22 minutes, the show managed to encapsulate everything the internet had been saying in fragmented pieces. That Disney's reboots no longer feel magical. That representation without story is meaningless. That modern actors often seem embarrassed by the roles they're paid millions to play. And in their exaggerated, absurd, unapologetically crass way, South Park told the truth. It wasn't just a roast, it was a reset button for public opinion. The result: Zegler's image took a final nosedive. Even fans who had once defended her began to admit, maybe she wasn't the right choice for Snow White after all. Across Hollywood, casting directors are now treating Snow White as a cautionary tale. Multiple agencies have reportedly received new internal notes advising clients to avoid polarizing public commentary during legacy franchise campaigns. One prominent casting agent told us, "The Zegler situation scared everyone. It used to be that you wanted a lead who had something to say. Now, it's back to safe, charming, media-trained, no social agendas." Because this showed how fast the narrative can turn. In some circles, pulling a Zegler is now shorthand for alienating your own fan base before the premiere. Harsh? Maybe. But Hollywood's memory is short and brutal. More than anything, the disaster of Snow White has highlighted a powerful cultural truth. Audiences don't mind change, but they do mind condescension. Zegler's mistake wasn't in being outspoken, it was in treating a cherished character like an outdated relic. In trying to fix Snow White, she unintentionally framed herself as someone who didn't believe in the story's worth, and therefore didn't believe in the fans who loved it. That's where the real damage was done. Contrast that with the recent success of traditionally faithful, emotionally sincere projects like Angel Studios' King of Kings, which has thrived by doing the opposite, treating its subject matter with reverence, depth, and care. In a media landscape full of noise, audiences are now seeking narrative sincerity. Snow White gave them a lecture, South Park gave them catharsis. Can Rachel Zegler recover from this? Yes, but it won't be easy. Industry insiders say she's currently taking a step back from public appearances. There's talk of an exclusive sit-down interview to reframe the narrative. Her team is reportedly weighing whether to lean into contrition or simply wait for the next scandal to steal headlines. But either way, Zegler's brand has changed. She's no longer the ingenue. She's no longer the Broadway darling turned Disney princess. She's the actress who got roasted on South Park for killing a fairy tale. And fair or not, that label is going to stick for a while. For Disney, the road ahead is even messier. Do they pull back on modernizing old tales? Do they retreat from live-action remakes altogether? Or do they double down and risk more brand erosion? What we know is this: internal strategy meetings have reportedly paused further casting announcements for legacy projects. The studio is said to be retesting scripts for upcoming remakes, including Tangled, Hercules, and The Princess and the Frog. Executives now realize what fans have known for years: nostalgia isn't the enemy, it's the draw. Rachel Zegler's Snow White was supposed to be a reimagined icon. What it became was a symbol of how quickly a fairy tale can fall apart when the storyteller stops believing in the magic. And thanks to South Park, that collapse is now burned into pop culture history with the sharpest tool satire has to offer: humiliation. In the end, all Zegler had to do was love the story. Instead, she tried to rewrite it. Now, audiences are writing her off. The Snow White implosion hasn't just affected Rachel Zegler, it's created a domino effect for everyone attached to the project. Behind the scenes, members of the supporting cast are reportedly distancing themselves from the controversy. Co-stars who once promoted the film on social media have gone silent. Crew members are expressing frustration over being dragged into a cultural battle they never signed up for. Even veteran Disney collaborators, including costume designers and songwriters, are quietly taking their talents elsewhere, afraid of being tethered to what insiders now call the Zegler incident. One talent rep revealed anonymously, "There's an entire circle of creatives who worked on Snow White who are praying this gets buried. They're moving on fast." Studios are protective of reputation. And right now, Snow White is radioactive. Another fallout few predicted: Rachel Zegler's Vanishing brand deals. Before the Snow White spiral, Zegler was being positioned as a rising face of high-end fashion, beauty campaigns, and streaming service branding partnerships. She had been in talks with a major fragrance line and a global apparel brand to lead seasonal ad campaigns. All of those are now, according to industry leaks, on ice or canceled outright. Why? Because brands want aspirational figures. And Zegler's press clips, combined with South Park's viral parody, have made her persona too polarizing for mainstream consumers. One marketing executive stated bluntly, "Even if she's talented, the public doesn't trust her vibe right now. She comes off like she hates the product she's selling. And no brand wants their ambassador to look like they resent the merchandise." What's especially ironic is that Disney originally had massive plans for Snow White's promotional run, plans that now feel absurd in hindsight. There were going to be international premieres, red carpet events in Europe and Asia, branded experiences at Disneyland and Disney World, and even an immersive Snow White experience in Times Square. Zegler was set to appear on all the major late-night shows and lifestyle programs. All of that? Quietly canceled. What remains now are pre-recorded interviews, promotional reels without energy, and a few last-minute reshoots with Zegler excluded entirely. Disney knows any live appearance now risks becoming a viral meme, and they've pulled the plug before more damage can be done. Even Zegler's team is allegedly declining press invitations, fearing another PR misstep would be unrecoverable. Perhaps most telling of all, Disney has reportedly begun exploring how to salvage the Snow White IP without Zegler's version. In merchandise previews for 2026, the character designs being circulated are heavily inspired by the 1937 classic, with zero visual resemblance to Zegler, no live-action tie-ins, no nods to the 2020 park materials, storybooks, even Halloween costumes are returning to vintage aesthetics. It's a corporate retreat in real time. And while Disney will never officially disown a 200 million-plus film, actions speak louder than statements. The unspoken message is clear: we're moving on without her. Since the South Park parody aired, Zegler has gone quiet. No tweets, no interviews, no indirect comments on Instagram. Her PR team is pursuing what insiders are calling a total media blackout. But here's the problem. Silence isn't winning her sympathy, it's creating a vacuum. Audiences are interpreting the quiet as confirmation, a lack of accountability, a refusal to engage. Even loyal fans who initially defended her are now questioning the silence. Where's the humility, the explanation, the self-awareness? As one fan put it online, she wants the applause, not the responsibility. That's not what a princess does. And that shift from fan base to frustration is devastating for long-term appeal. Within the industry, young actors are watching this unfold like a cautionary film school seminar. PR reps are using Zegler as a real-time case study in what not to do when you're cast in a legacy IP. Workshops and private media coaching sessions for upcoming stars are now including modules on respecting the franchise and navigating fan legacy. The idea that you can't play a beloved character unless you understand what they mean to people. And if you come across as dismissive, ironic, or embarrassed, you risk alienating the exact audience who made that character iconic. Rachel Zegler, once the breakout star, is now the cultural case study. Initially, there was buzz, however naive, that Zegler could ride Snow White to awards attention, or at the very least build serious critical momentum. Now, her name has been scrubbed from those conversations entirely. She's no longer on Oscar long lists. Trade magazines have pulled her from It Girl features. Upcoming ensemble roles she once booked are allegedly being renegotiated or pushed back. Studios aren't canceling her, but they're not investing either. There's a hesitation now, a pause. And in Hollywood, that pause can become a stop. Perhaps the most brutal element of this entire saga is how immortal the South Park parody has become. In an age of endless media churn, most controversies fade, but animated satire? That lives forever. Zegler's caricature in South Park now exists on YouTube, in memes, on Reddit threads, in compilation clips titled "How Disney Lost the Plot." It's going to be referenced for years. It's a mark on her resume that no PR team can scrub clean. And every time Disney announces a new princess reboot, people will remember what happened last time. Internally, there are rumors that Disney may try to distance itself more explicitly from the creative choices behind Snow White by pinning the failure on misaligned messaging. In corporate terms, they're looking for a scapegoat. That might mean anonymous leaks blaming Zegler's press tone, or producers suddenly doing tell-all interviews explaining how the project lost its way. Don't be surprised if we see a future Vanity Fair piece titled "What Really Happened Behind Snow White's Collapse." But here's the twist. Zegler will be part of the blame narrative whether she likes it or not. At the core of this mess is one lesson every studio is taking seriously now. You can't fake reverence. You can't take a beloved story, gut it, insert a new ideology, hand it to an actor who doesn't even like it, and expect people to clap. Respect matters. Tone matters. Legacy matters. Zegler's failure wasn't a solo act, but she's the face the world saw, and the cultural memory of this mess will live on, not through the film itself, but through what it symbolizes. What happens when Hollywood forgets why these stories mattered in the first place? Rachel Zegler was supposed to be the future of Disney's live-action legacy. Instead, her portrayal of Snow White has become a cautionary tale. Not just about casting, not just about marketing, but about what happens when you forget why people loved the story in the first place. And now, South Park's immortalized that failure in the most public way possible, by turning Disney's attempt at reinvention into comedy gold. The prince may be gone, the dwarfs replaced, and the castle crumbling, but at least we got a great episode out of it. Let us know what you thought of South Park's roast. Did they go too far, or did Disney deserve it? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into pop culture chaos. Because this fairy tale, it's anything but magical now.